Hi viewers, it's Ket, and welcome to another Obby Mauler guide. Today I will be answering one of the most volatile and important questions that you may have for your Obby Mauler account. Which prayer level should I choose? In this video, I am prepared to offer you my unbiased opinions toward each and every prayer level that is accessible to Obbies that is relevant to PKing. This includes explaining the different common prayer levels that Obbies choose to get, breaking down the combat level investment for each level, and reviewing the different max hits with best in slot gear, and also the pros and cons for each prayer level. Now I know some of you might be thinking that this is a lot of information on a small particular topic, but this is just something that I wanted to go more in depth with and just lay it all out for you guys so that you have the most information available at your fingertips as possible into determining which prayer level is right for your Obby account. Because at the end of the day, this is your account and you don't want to mess it up, and Obbies take a long time to train, so you might as well know what you're getting into first rather than just coming up with your own sort of conclusion on your own. So sit back, enjoy these PvP clips with me and my clanmate, and let's dive right on into this topic. So first off, it is quite necessary to know just how each prayer level factors into your combat level in general. So most of you might not know this, but each odd level of prayer that you get actually does not affect your combat level. In turn, every even prayer level that you get adds 0.25 combat levels to your overall combat level, which basically means that every prayer level that you get, you're spending 0.125 combat levels to get it. With that factorization being said, the difference in combat level between a player with 98 prayer versus the same player with 99 prayer is 0. There is no difference in gaining that extra 1 prayer level because it is an odd prayer level. Now, little tidbits like these are kind of relevant to know because in the Obby world, every combat level matters to us. So every time you go out and increase your combat level on your Obby account, the more difficult and tougher opponents you face in a PvP scenario versus the prior level. So with this comes better weaponry for them, higher strength levels, higher range levels, higher prayer, HP, etc., you name it. But with us being Obbies and having a limited accessibility to weaponry in the game, we don't really have much to work with. And fighting against tougher opponents like G Maulers and range peers, these levels are very, very, very scaling for them, and not quite with us. So with all these little factors in mind, now I want to introduce to you all of the common stopping points for prayer levels for Obbies, and those include 1, 5, 13, 31, and 43. Now I want to implicate what we just learned earlier about how each prayer level affects your combat level, and I want to display it on your screen here so that you have a visual representation about how many combat levels you need to invest to get each and every consecutive prayer level. Achieving 5, 13, or 31 prayer on your Obby allows access to different prayers that offer percentage boosts for your strength. Unlocking higher prayers increases your max hit additively depending on the percentage boost of the prayer. With that being said, let's explore how each prayer boost affects the max hit of an Obby Mauler if you were to be 99 strength and using the best possible equipment, aka the Obby Maul, the Berserker necklace, the regen bracelet, spiked manacles, a fire cape, and a berserker ring imbued. The max hit for a 1 prayer Obby Mauler wearing best in slot gear is a 43. The max hit for a 5 prayer Obby Mauler is a 44. The max hit for a 13 prayer Obby Mauler is a 46. And the max hit for a 31 prayer Obby Mauler is a 49. Now that we've reviewed each and every max hit for the consecutive prayer levels and their boosts, we're going to be moving on to the big talk. This is where I'm going to be vouching for you as an Obby, whether to get 1 prayer, 5 prayer, 13, 31, or 43, depending on your needs, your Obby build, and what you can be able to accomplish within the game with these. So now I'm going to be laying out all the pros and cons for each level, so pay attention because you might learn something. So let's start with the pros and cons of 1 prayer. The very first one that comes to my mind is very obvious. You're going to be able to maintain the lowest combat level when you max. Going back to the conversation we had earlier about maintaining a lower combat level, some players actually like this as it doesn't allow you to drift further and further into the higher combat level brackets when PKing. Another pro to staying one prayer is it truly looks aesthetically pleasing. It looks super clean in the stat page, and to some people it's a huge achievement being one prayer and maintaining that low level and just maxing out a ton of other skills. Like, it looks really clean. Another solid pro to staying one prayer is you maintain the capacity to choose whichever direction you want to take as far as prayer level training. So you can maybe do this at a later date when you fully decide that you're ready to take on the decision, because it really is a tough decision, and hopefully this guide just sort of points you in the path of which you want to take. But just staying one prayer allows you to make that decision at a later date. Moving on to some of the cons of staying one prayer, you obviously have the lowest max hit available to you in terms of all the different prayer options you have. So sometimes hitting a 43 as an obby is considered like hot garbage, but sometimes people regard it as kind of good. So it's really up to you and your own opinion on that. Another con I can think of is you're gonna have to stick with unskull PKing. So sorry guys, you're not gonna be able to protect your berserker necklace if you skull up. Another con I can think of is no Knifus access. Guys, this is so huge. Have you ever tried training at 40 agility without the Knifus rooftops? Yeah, it's kind of hard, and maybe you wanted the extra herb patch that Port Phantasmus offers. Well, sorry about your luck, you don't get it with this build. Moving on to the topic of 5 prayer. So we're gonna start with the pros on this one as well. So one of the pros is that this is the first prayer level that you get a percentage boost using the strength prayer that you get. So this may or may not affect your combat level, as it only increases your combat level by 0.5. For some niche account builds, this could actually be regarded as a really good option, because at some levels you kind of max out at an even combat level, so maybe adding the 0.5 combat level won't actually affect your entire combat level at max, so this might be something worth looking into. Another perk of getting 5 prayer is that if the argument is what's the best prayer level to get in terms of increasing my max hit versus the combat level investment, then 5 prayer is the best option, as it is the most efficient option, because it only raises your combat level by 0.5 and it gives you a 5% boost. So at 99 strength, that could be considerable. So besides just increasing your max hit by a little bit, 5 prayer has always just been like an underdog type of level where nobody's really kind of looked into it, but it might be something that you want to consider. Moving on to some of the cons of sticking with 5 prayer, there really aren't too many that 5 prayer exclusively holds that weren't already covered in the 1 prayer cons. But on top of just the no Knifus access and the unskulled PKing, 5 prayer generally looks very unconventional, and it's a non-popular opinion. It's a purely theoretical idea that this 0.5 combat level investment might serve in your favor in terms of some wackier different Mauler builds with a couple attack levels or maybe a couple defense levels. So who knows, if you want to try this out, go for it. There are no quests that you can particularly do to get you to 5 prayer. You're just gonna have to train for it, so good luck, have fun. And moving right along to 13 prayer. So one of the pros of 13 prayer is it's the next milestone in terms of the 10% percentage boost that it offers to strength. Another pro to 13 is it is widely accepted as the meta prayer level to PvP, because it basically gives the right amount of strength bonus with not a lot of combat level investment. So it's a wise choice to go plus 1.5 combat levels for a couple extra max hits, as depicted in the max hit section of this guide, so something to think about. This option generally starts to speak its truth whenever you're about 70 or 80 strength, as it becomes more worth it during these levels to get that percentage boost as it scales with your strength level. Another pro to 13 is you can actually quest up until 13 prayer. Yes, before you do anything, just do the Priest in Peril quest on your Obby Mauler, gain access to the Knifus area, and you'll be 11 prayer at the end of the quest, so just bury a couple bones and voila, you'll be 13 prayer, you'll be smacking them noobs. Moving on to the 13 prayer con section, there really aren't too much that distinguish the 1, 5, and 13 prayer cons, except for the fact that you still have to deal with unskulled PKing, you still have to deal with like finding fights and not being able to skull up on noobs and kind of rush them into the fight. You kind of have to let them attack you first. And also 13 prayer is more of a combat level investment for you. It's a plus 1.5 combat level investment, but you already knew that, so let's move on to 31 prayer. Pros of 31 prayer is you finally get access to the protect item prayer at 25, so getting 31 is just necessary for that extra 5% boost, which is worth it. Along with Scald PKing, some may regard this as an easier gear setup, as you don't have to determine whether or not you want to bring out your Berserker Ring imbued or your spiked manacles for the fight. You basically have a pretty consolidated gear setup, which is consisting of like Ring of Recoil and Maul. You're always going to be risking your Maul and just like everything else besides your Berserker necklace that you wear. I recommend Obbies getting 31 prayer whenever they reach about 90 or 95 strength, as it is an option at that level, as it starts to become more and more worth it, because that extra 15% boost really just scales with the amount of strength levels you get. And moving on to some of the cons of 31 prayer is this is the first level that you start to see a massive influx in your combat level in general. This is a pretty high combat level investment to reach to. This is a 3.75 combat levels to get to 31 prayer. So sometimes it's regarded as worth it, but sometimes, in mathematically speaking, in terms of overall max hit per combat level, it might not be as worth it as you think. Along with Scald PKing being considered as a pro, there is actually a definitive con that comes with 31 prayer, and the fact that it allows you to do the Scald PKing, but if you choose that route, it really just slims the options of your gear setup in general, so you won't be able to use that spiked manacles that you have, you won't be able to use your B-ring eye and protect it. You basically just have that Berserker necklace, and then you're risking everything else that you bring along with your PKing trip. So with that, it just kind of limits your max hit, and so each one of those items have like a particular boost that comes with it, and so this might not be a option that you might consider. And moving on to the last prayer level that I'm going to cover for Obby Mauler accounts, there is the option to go to 43 prayer, and this is basically like a quality of life upgrade for basically non-PvP related things. Now some things are related to PvP, which the minuscule fact of being able to flash on protection prayers at the beginning or end of your fight whenever you like kill somebody. This is basically like an anti-rush maneuver. Basically, you're just not going to be able to die, and people are going to avoid rushing you. But rather, the huge quality of life that 43 Prey brings you is going to be outside of PvP, where it's going to bring you efficiency in PvM, and also post 55 slaying if you ever consider that on your obby. So that's generally like going to be saving you a lot of time and a lot of supplies. Other pros to 43 prayer is easier accessibility to the fire cape and the nightmare zone ring imbues. These are huge milestones for obbies, because if you don't have the access to do a low prayer fire cape, you might want to consider 43, because that's just something that you want to get, right? You want to be able to hit the max hit on your obby, or even the Berserker Ring if you don't have a main or somebody to help you out with the blocking method, which there are separate guides on YouTube to discuss this. Then you're basically stuck in a hard place. You know, you want to be able to achieve the Berserker Ring imbued, or even the Ring of Suffering imbued for your PvP scenarios. Moving on to the cons of 43 prayer, it obviously has a 5.25 combat level investment, so this is the highest out of all the other prayer level options that I just talked about. So basically, people typically regard 43 prayer as a ruination of your account build, generally for a PvP standpoint, because you're gaining a lot of unnecessary levels than you would be with sticking with 31 prayer or 13 prayer and the like. So generally, you need to keep 43 prayer as like a thought, but you also want to consider all those extra combat levels do have an effect whenever you go out and PK. And there you guys have it. That is the extent of the prayer discussion in which I want to share with you guys today. I think I've covered just about everything for each consecutive prayer level, all the pros, cons, max hits, and etc, etc. Use the timestamps down below to maybe review certain sections of your favorite prayer builds that you might have in mind. And I just want you guys to come back to this and sort of mold your own decision making into which prayer level suits your obby the best. As always, I want to throw a huge shout out to Obby Elite CC. This is the #1 top rated obby community that is active and current at the moment in the game, guys. We're throwing events every Sunday. I want to throw a huge shout out and thank everybody that is in a leadership or staff position, or all of my friends in the clan chat. You guys are just everything to me and have been with me since day one, and we want to welcome new obbies and old obbies and the like. Come on guys, join Obby Elite CC in the game now. Make sure to leave a comment down below, subscribe for more content, and Obby Maul that like button down below, guys. Until next time, peace.